And we evolved into a more market-worshiping, privatizing, deregulating, trickle-down, union-busting, I got mine, so long sucker economy, which was a perfectly acceptable theory. There was nothing wrong with that theory if that was how people thought we could maintain and expand wealth or we could retain the American dream. It had only one significant problem. Actually, it was a fatal flaw. It didn't work. It has not worked, it did not work, and now America is in peril because of that problem. Americans have been growing apart, not growing together. Goldman Sachs says in 2006, profits were at record high, wages were at record low. The Census Bureau's reported for the last 5 years, American workers haven't gotten raised, the longest period of economic stagnation in the history of our country. And don't be mistaken, I want to make it clear, I therefore do not actually support, and in fact I actually condemn the redistribution of wealth. That is the redistribution of wealth upwards, is what I condemn. Although the average economic well-being has increased considerably, as Ben Bernanke said, over time the degree of inequality and economic outcomes has increased as well. So let me just show you 3 quick graphs. The first graph is looking between 1979 and 2006, about after income real tax for the top 1% of the households, we can see rose 256%. Top 1% averaged $863,000 of increases in that period of time. They got a 14% year raise, and they saw the tax rate of the wealthiest 1% fell to its lowest level in 18 years. That was not a bad deal if you could get it. The rest of the graph in the middle, second, third, and fourth quintile, who we might call the middle class in America, actually saw their raises only grow between 1 and less than 2%. This year, the average weekly raises of Americans have fallen 1.4% through September. And if the trends hold, it will mark the biggest annual decline since 1991. Graph 2 is a quick glance of income levels. And graph 2. We've shown we have returned back to the days of the Roaring '20s. I'm not sure anyone was here for the Roaring '20s. I didn't read the book, but I don't think the story ended very well with this kind of inequality. And then we saw what really began to drive Americans apart and not together is that we decoupled productivity and wages. Between 1947 and 1973, productivity doubled, as did the real value of American workers' wages. We grew together. America was a much more equal place because we all shared in the wealth. And then beginning in the Reagan eras and onward, we see it has grown apart. So rather than a rising tide raising all boats, which we saw from 47 to 73, now the rising tide only raises the luxury liners, and the rest of the boats are in pretty rocky waters. We attacked over the last 30 years business regulation, minimum wage, defined benefit pensions, progressive tax policy, government oversight, and of course we attacked unions. And the results have been stunning. Real wages decoupled from productivity and American workers no longer getting a raise. And 70% of all Americans don't think their kids are going to lead a better life than they do. Which is why, in case you missed the last election, the idea of hope and change had an enormous sense of opportunity and possibilities. Americans agree that economic opportunity should be widely distributed and as equal as possible, but they also understand that economic outcomes are not going to be equal, but should somehow be linked to the contributions that people make. You know, the old adage that hard work in America actually should pay, like it did from 1947 to 1973, and that for people that are dislocated, whose hard work doesn't pay, we need to find, as Richard Epstein said, some basis, some minimal level, maybe it's redistribution last, but we should not let those boats sink in the richest country on earth. And whether it's a basic level of health care or retirement or minimum wage or adjustment for dislocation because the economic revolution takes your jobs and sends it to China, we can do better in America, and we need to right now. So let me just end by saying that for those of you who care more about this country than a particular company, which is not true of too many of our CEOs today, I want you to join me together to make this a place where the dreams of our children and our grandchildren still can come true. That's the America I want. That's the America we need. That's the America we had, and that's the America we need to return to. But we're not going to drive into the future looking in the rearview mirror. Team USA needs a new 21st century plan that's more just and more fair and more decent and that rewards everyone's hard work. Thank you very much.
All right, our fourth speaker is someone who's well known to you, Steve Forbes, and he's the chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Forbes Media. He's also the editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine. And his company's flagship publication, Forbes, is the nation's leading business magazine with a circulation of more than 900,000. Forbes, combined with Forbes Asia and the company's 10 licensee editions together, reach a worldwide audience of more than 5.5 million readers. Many of you know that in 1996 and 2000, Mr. Forbes waged a spirited campaign for the Republican nomination for the presidency, and critical to his platform were the advocacy of a flat tax, a medical savings account, a new Social Security system for working Americans, and parental choices for schools for their children. So we have a very creative and inventive thinker with us today, and rounding out our panel, I'd like Steve Forbes to come forward.
Well, thank you, Judge, and thank all of you. No small part for my free breakfast this morning. Tough economic times, but not like quite a free lunch. But in terms of redistribution, I think Richard put it very well. The key thing is, before you can get redistribution, or the key thing is, how do you create wealth? How do you create opportunity? And right now, let me throw something, a little bit of red meat out there. The greatest mechanism for creating opportunity, for, as Abraham Lincoln put it, improving one's lot in life, is entrepreneurial capitalism. The moral basis of capitalism is very simple: meeting the needs and wants of other people. You can think of yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, as just in it for yourself, you just want the money, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not providing a product or service that meets the needs and wants of others, you will not succeed unless the government helps you. So whatever your motives are, all transactions in a free market are mutually beneficial. Adam Smith put it very well: you want the dinner, you give money to the baker wants your money, he gives you your dinner. Mutually advantageous transaction. Entrepreneurial capitalism works with proper rules of the road. James Madison, father of our Constitution, said if we are angels, we would not need government, we would not need laws. Manifestly, most of us are not angels, and so we do. But the key thing is, what kind of rules and laws? Are they going to be telling us what to do in terms of micromanaging us, or are they going to be like rules of the road, speed limits, got to turn on the indicator when you want to turn, but the government does not tell you where you can go, what you must drive, when you can go, and that sort of thing. The blunt truth is that every major economic disaster in the past 100 years has its origins in government policy, not flaws in the free market. The Great Depression, for example, which followed the very innovative decade of the 1920s, had as its cause the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which destroyed global trade, mistakes by the Federal Reserve, massive tax increases, including excise taxes, wasn't just on income. The great inflation of the 1970s, excess money creation, incessant money creation by the Federal Reserve and other central banks. This disaster has its origins, again, one of the most boring subjects in the world, monetary policy. It is boring. I hope you had some coffee. I'll just give you a quick travel tip. If any of you find yourself in an airplane and coach in the middle seat, on the runway, watching your life pass away, you want a little bit of elbow room, talk to your seatmates about monetary policy. You'll have all the room you want. But what it